You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 Gov.biz Radio, a CBS station.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. You're listening to us on CBS radio station Gov.biz, 1580 AM in the Washington, D.C. area, or on the web, WMClive.com, where you can also find links to podcasts of previous shows. And we want to hear from you. Call the comment line 347-903-WMC1 or tweet hashtag WMC Live, or you can email us at womensmediacenterlive@gmail.com. This week we travel from Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota to a gourmet vegan restaurant in Washington, D.C., and we talk about what makes feminist comedy with somebody who really knows, actor Kathy Najimy. But first, behind the headlines. Harvest feasts have existed since harvests. The origins of Thanksgiving Day, though, are traceable to the Puritans' 1621 harvest celebration in Plymouth, Massachusetts, though their first real Thanksgiving was probably 2 years later, when they held a religious service of gratitude for the end of a drought. These original Thanksgivings were special church services, not feasts. By the close of the 1600s, post-harvest Thanksgivings were common, but they were observed on different dates in different communities. As president, George Washington proclaimed the first National Thanksgiving Day in 1789. Given the a-religious attitudes of almost all the founders, some scholars think Washington did so deliberately to reposition Thanksgiving as a secular holiday and feast, removing it from state traditions that tended to be more bound up with the church. If so, Washington was not the only framer critical of the day's prayerful associations. Jefferson refused to issue proclamations of Thanksgiving at all during his presidency, noting that, quote, civil powers alone have been given to the President of the United States and no authority to direct the religious exercises of his constituents. Then there was James Madison, father of the Constitution. Here are excerpts from what he wrote in 1817 in a passage moving from a critique of chaplainships to one of Thanksgiving's. Quote, the establishment of the chaplainship to Congress is a palpable violation of constitutional principles. Better also to disarm the precedent of chaplainships for the Army and Navy. Religious proclamations by the executive branch recommending Thanksgivings are shoots from the same root with the legislative acts above reviewed. Although recommendations only, they imply a religious agency making no part of the trust delegated to political rulers. Jimmy Madison, you rock. Even now, not everyone views the day as celebratory. Since 1970, a group of Native Americans and supporters have staged an annual Thanksgiving Day protest at Plymouth Rock, proposing the day be turned into a national day of mourning. Native American Heritage Day falls with nice ironic timing on the Friday after Thanksgiving. Most Americans now celebrate Thanksgiving simply as a day off from work to enjoy family and friends and to gloriously overeat. A dear friend of mine says it's her favorite holiday precisely because it's unassociated with religion, because she loves feeding people, and also because the preparations make the house smell divine. Those seem to me sensible, cozy reasons. However we observe Thanksgiving, though, it can't hurt to keep in mind the Native Americans who got shafted. And it can't hurt to keep in mind James Madison. Now our first guest is Sunny Clifford, who's one of 3 young women featured in the film Young Lakota. The Lakota are one of 7 interrelated indigenous Sioux peoples of the Great Plains. Sunny works as an interpreter at the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota, where she grew up. Sunny, welcome to the program. Let's talk a little bit about the film Young Lakota, and which is going to air in 2013. And you and your twin sister are in it, and it's about the battle over reproductive rights and tribal sovereignty. Talk a little about that.
Well, I started being filmed in 2006. whenever South Dakota had tried to pass the abortion ban, and there were no exceptions for rape or incest. It was just no abortions in the state of South Dakota at all. And around the time we had our first female tribal president, who was really a fire thunder, and she was really outspoken about that, and she had stated that if the ban had passed in South Dakota, that she would open up a clinic on a reservation, because our laws are different from the state level, although we do have a federal and tribal relationship. But she said that we would be able to open a clinic on a reservation, and that unfortunately ended in her impeachment from the tribal council just for her saying that. So it's highly controversial.
She's remarkable. Yeah, she
is.
So then what happened? You became involved in the fight.
Yes. Serena and I, my twin, we became active in protested in Rapid City, also just hanging political signs everywhere, talking to friends and family, asking them to vote no on it. My little sister, she was helping, and she had told me the other day when we went to go vote, she said, the last time I voted in South Dakota was in 2006, and I high-fived her because I knew that was for the ban. Yeah.
And earlier this year, you led some efforts online to make emergency contraception available to Native women, and noting that 1 out of 3 Native women will be raped in her lifetime. What was the outcome of that effort?
Right now, I've read about some IHS clinics throughout the United States actually implementing the policy that's been there to have Plan B available over the counter. But as far as the Pine Ridge Reservation goes right now, currently, there's nothing being done about it. And then I've also heard down the line that they are working on a policy nationally to make that mandatory for Plan B to be available over the counter.
So basically, women on the reservation were caught between the state anti-choice people and even some of the anti-choice people on the tribal council.
Yes.
Oh, terrific! I mean, it's a double whammy then.
Yes, you have. I think around the time when Cecilia was talking about opening an abortion clinic here on a reservation, that the tribal council had actually passed a resolution that said there would be no abortions on a reservation. So, I mean, you get it from the state side, and then we're also getting it from our own tribal council.
And when they impeached her, what was the disposition over that? Did they remove her?
Yes, they completely removed her from office. She only had about 4 months left in her term, and she did run again for president, but she didn't make it. So
where does the situation stand now? Are women able to obtain procedures?
Let's say if I needed an abortion, I would have to travel from where I am on a Pine Ridge Indian Reservation to Sioux Falls, which is about a 5-6 hour drive away from me. And also that's at the Planned Parenthood in Sioux Falls, and there is only a doctor available on 1 day of the week. And I, luckily, if I ever did need one, I'm aware of the 72-hour mandatory counseling that is required before you get an abortion in South Dakota. There's so many barriers to pass through.
Is there anything that can be done at this point, or is the battle for the moment just sort of hanging fire?
It's just hanging there, and also, I don't know what can be done to make anything change as of right now, besides pushing our politicians into certain policies.
I wanted to talk with you particularly on this show. I know that you're a graduate of the Progressive Women's Voices program, but especially in this show because this is going to be our Thanksgiving Day show. And when we did our, our Columbus Day show, we turned it into a First Peoples Day show with Joy Harjo as a guest and Rebecca Adamson. And so you're holding the fort on this one. Is there anything in particular about, I know that in many of the original nations, women held great power, and in some cases real sovereignty, certainly among the Iroquois and a number of nations. Where does the Lakota fall on that spectrum? Were they more matriarchal or patriarchal or somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, the Lakota society was matriarchal. For example, if I was to be married during those times, pre-colonization, the man would actually move to my family, and he would take up in my tribe rather than me going and assuming a role in his family and taking up his name. It would be the other way around. Yes, and also in the creation stories, a lot of the prominent figures are female. They're women. One of our most prominent and well known among the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota is the white buffalo calf woman.
Ah,
our ceremonies and our way of life.
Yeah, that's a wonderful one. You've said, you've only got another minute or so left, but you've said that you believe in a better world if it were run by women. Actually, I have to say I couldn't agree more. What led you to this belief?
I grew up with a single mom and a lot of sisters. And a lot of, I looked up to a lot of women throughout my life, and I found, even in stories, books, reading, literature, that a lot of the people who I looked up to and who made a difference in my life were women. And I mean, but I'd like to think that we could be, the genders could be complementary to each other, and not one having a say-so over the other, but rather shared equality.
That would be nice, huh? Yeah, that'd be a very different kind of world. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on Women's Media Center Live and for everything that you do. And we'll all look forward to seeing the film Young Lakota, which will air on Independent Lens on PBS in 2013 as part of its Women and Girls Lead initiative.
Very honored to be on your show and to be able to share my voice and story. Well, thank you.
Honored to have you. We'll take a short break here while you can let us know what you're thinking. Via email at womensmediacenterlive@gmail.com or on Twitter, #WMC Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and this is Women's Media Center Live. Next, do you know the difference between plain organic food and certified organic? You will soon. Be right back. After Hurricane Sandy, parts of the East Coast have returned to normal, but others won't see normal again for quite some time. One group getting volunteers and aid supplies to those who need it is called Occupy Sandy. Made up of a coalition of Occupy Wall Street activists, community organizers, and technologists, Occupy Sandy is using social media and other software tools to identify and quickly respond to urgent needs among the hardest-hit communities. You can help. To donate or to volunteer, visit occupysandy.org.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.
And we're back. By the way, you might want to have a pencil ready. Toward the end of this segment, I'm going to give an email address that I think you might want to write down. Our next guest, Nora Pouillon, is a prize-winning chef, a successful restaurant owner, an award-winning cookbook writer, and an organizer dedicated to bringing revolutionary organic change in the way people regard food. Welcome, Nora, and thank you for being with us on Women's Media Center Live.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, tell me and our listeners what is meant by certified organic. I know you own the first certified organic restaurant in the country, and you're in Washington, D.C. What does certified organic mean?
It means that the USDA has inspected the farm, if it's a turkey or a vegetable farm, inspected that they don't use any chemical additives like pesticides, fertilizer. There are other rules too, but the most important is no pesticides, no hormones, no antibiotics, no GMOs on their crops, on their livestock.
I see. So if something just says organic on it at the supermarket or in a restaurant, unless it says certified, it's not really organic?
No, I think you need the stamp of approval, which is USDA certified organic. And I think it's important because if you can talk to the farmer and hear what he's doing and ask him, that's fine. But if you buy something, from further away where you don't have any contact with the farmer, it's important to have the USDA certified organic stamp on it.
I see. You've started a number of aspects of this. Not only are you a restaurateur and a chef, but you're quite an organizer. You were the first recipient of the Genesis Award from women chefs and restaurateurs, and every year you host five women chefs and women restaurateurs interning in your home and at your restaurant to introduce them to organic food.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, I think my role now is not so much to stand in the kitchen and do cooking. And, the restaurant is 34 years old, and I have 50 employees. My role is now to be a teacher, an informant, to really inspire people to live in a healthier way and to think about their own health and the health of the environment when they make their food choices. And by having them in my house, I bring them to exercise class. That they see that also exercise, is very important. They work in the restaurant where they learn about where the food comes from. And then they go to the farm, they go to an organic farm, and they spend like 2 days on this organic farm and see exactly where the food comes from. Actually, at the restaurant, they learn how it is prepared. And then 1 day they spend at the farmer's market, and they help the farmer they stayed with to sell the products and to see how it goes to producer and to consumer and to communicate with the people.
It's a wonderful program. You are spreading this happy infection far and wide. You introduced bus tours, right, to get other Washington D.C. chefs to the local farmers and to sort of jumpstart the farm to table movement. Are those still still going on?
Yes, I did, and because I realized that I could not get. I needed more farmers, and I needed the farmer to make a decent living, to be able to supply me all year round. And so what I did is I thought that if he would have more customers, the farmer, he could also entice more farmers to grow organically. And so what I did, I organized bus tours. I called up every chef I knew in Washington and asked them if they want to come with me out to the farm and learn about where their food comes from and learn about organic farming. And I did that for like 3 years, and it worked out very well. I mean, I introduced, I think, most Washington chefs to farms, and this became a co-op. It's called Tuscarora Organic Growers, and they can really now support about 30 different small farmers, make a decent living, and it has been going on for the last, I would say, 15 years.
That's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And you also helped start the first farmers market in the area, right?
Yes.
You've been a busy woman.
I was then in New York, and I saw the Union Square Market, and it really inspired me. And then I was on a board of the Public Voice, which is a consumer advocacy organization, and I just said, we need a farm like that in Washington. We need a farmer's market like that. And so I have to say, the Wallace Foundation gave us our seed money, and I asked my friend Ann Yonkers if she would run it, and she luckily said yes, and now it's a very successful organization. We have now 11 markets in the Washington, D.C. area.
Wow, that's a growth.
Yes, and 2 of them are open all year round, which is wonderful too. And it helps, again, sustain these local farmers because, if they would have to sell to a wholesaler, they would only make half the money. Selling directly to the consumer is, of course, the best way of doing it. It created a community. I mean, it's wonderful. Yesterday I went to the DuPont Circle Farmers Market the feeling there from everybody coming and meeting and talking and communicating with the farmer, because the farmers have to sell. It's a producer-only farmers market, which means they cannot go to a wholesaler and buy bananas and oranges and sell them.
Right.
They have to actually grow the food that they sell, and it's just. I'm so happy that it worked out. It brings awareness to the people about the food that they eat, where it comes from, about the season, which are so important. And, there are only pluses.
I'm sure that women who are executive chefs are still discriminated against. I mean, they hold, I think it's something like 13% only of the top restaurant jobs, and they're paid, as usual, 76 cents for every dollar that male chefs earn. The statistic is about the same as the women in the workforce at large, where women earn 77% of men. What is this new, this is my last question because we're running out of time, but what is this new macho thing of iron chefs and the guys flexing their muscles? Has that made it harder for women chefs?
No, I don't think so. I think women creep into it more and more. I mean, also women of color. I think it's, everything takes time. It's a very taxing job being a chef. I mean, you have long, grueling hours. You have to stand on your feet a lot. You have to be, strong. Not that women are not strong, but, you have really to have stamina. It's a very tough job, and so physically. Right. And so I think some women... I think some women don't make a choice, and they make a choice that perhaps they would like to be more a pastry chef, or they would like to be independent so they can, have their own work, open their own little store or their own little catering business. And that's why you don't see perhaps so many women out there on these competitive shows, because they normally, to attract, viewers, they pick the most famous chefs that you can think of. And unfortunately, many of them are men. I think it has also to do that you need investors to invest in you. It's very expensive to.
I see. That hits the spot.
Or to have a restaurant. So I think investors probably are. There you're right. Are more. Partial. Inclined to invest in men than in women.
Yes, because in terms of the hard work part, women are doing that at home all the time anyway. It's just that they're not getting paid for it. Thank you so much for being with us, and I can't wait to the next time I'm in D.C. so I can come to the restaurant and hopefully meet you in person.
Yeah, please.
And now it's time for verbal karate. Today's chops and kicks in honor of you and I having suffered through the seemingly endless election campaign that at least finished with the women's vote making all the difference. We're looking today to clarify the distinction between the words suffragette and suffragist. These definitions are by the eminent word scholar Rosalie Maggio, who's authored numerous books on anti-sexist and anti-racist terminology, and who currently is collaborating with the Women's Media Center on a book in progress called Unspinning the Spin. Suffrage, by the way, stems from the Latin suffragium, which means to support with one's vote. Although women in Great Britain chose to call themselves suffragettes, U.S. women did not want the demeaning "et" ending, like majorette or usherette, and were called suffragettes only by those periodicals and speakers who were hostile to the women's goals. Suffragist, the term preferred by the American women, describes anyone of either sex, but most often it refers to a woman, who works for the voting rights of others, especially women's. In 1912, the great Mark Twain wrote of suffragists this: "For 40 years they have swept an imposingly large number of unfair laws from the statute books of America. In this brief time, these serfs have set themselves free, essentially. Men could not have done as much for themselves in that time without bloodshed. At least they never have. And that's an argument that they didn't know how." Now, we have a brief news you can use item this week, so you got that pencil? Well, if you're as outraged as I am at the recent death of a young woman, Savita Halappanavar, in Ireland, because of their medieval anti-abortion laws, there is something you can do. This is the Member of Parliament you can email to push for civilized legislation. This is the moment. So here's the address. ENDA, E-N like Nancy, D like David, A, dot, Kenny, Kenny, at, and I'm going to spell this because I can't pronounce it, it's Gaelic, in the name of the Parliament, OIREACH, T as in Thomas, A-S as in Sarah, dot, I-E. That's ENDA, E-N-D-A, dot, Kenny, Kenny, at OIREACH, TAS, dot, I-E. They need to hear from us, from the whole world. Now it's time for another pause. I'm Robin Morgan, here with Women's Media Center Live. We'll be back to welcome a woman with whom you love to laugh, on TV and on stage as well as in the movies, actor Kathy Najimy. Don't go away.
If you ever need an organ transplant, you will probably die before you get one. Thousands of Americans die waiting every year. You can improve your odds by joining LifeSharers, and it's free. Visit lifesharers.org or call 888-ORGAN-88. LifeSharers puts organ donors first. When you join LifeSharers, you get preferred access to the organs of other members. This could literally save your life. Join LifeSharers today. There's no age limit. Parents can enroll their minor children, and no one is excluded due to any pre-existing medical condition. Call 888-ORGAN-88 or visit lifesharers.org. That's LIFESHARERS.org. LifeSharers. It's free. It could save your life.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.
Welcome back again. You may know her best as the irrepressible nun, Sister Mary Patrick, in the Sister Act movies, or from her memorable performance in the film Hocus Pocus, or, my favorite, the fall-down, gasp, roll on the floor, ribs achingly funny feminist duo that was an off-Broadway hit and a great HBO special, The Kathy and Mo Show. We're so glad to have you at Women's Media Center Live.
Robin, I'm so thrilled to be on it. I have been a fan of yours and worked with you and remember meeting you backstage of the Kathy and Mo Show in like 1986.
Right.
When I met Gloria Steinem and Alice Walker, and you're one of the people she brought, and to me that was my royalty. Well,
I was ready for the hospital at that point. I mean, in traction. I thought I had never encountered such feminist comedic sensibilities as in Kathy and Mo, and not just funny, haha, but profound funny. So I was over the moon. You know, the fanship, it was completely reciprocal. I would love to start later on. I want to talk about what you're doing now and have been doing recently, but I want to plunge right in and take advantage of your brain. This has been called the talk show with a brain. So I want to take advantage of yours and talk about feminist comedy. You're not a stand-up comic. You never have been. You do feminist comedic theater, I think. Is that the wrong way to describe it?
No, that's kind of perfect. You know, Mo and I met years and years ago, and she was the funniest person I'd ever met, and she also was a feminist, and that wasn't easy for, you know, a 24-year-old to find then, although I was really supported at college. I went to San Diego State, and where I minored in women's studies. A professor named Carol Perkins sort of sparked my already budding feminism, and you know, so Mo and I found each other, and we had both been in sort of plays here and there, but we were most interested and almost crazy passionate about comedy and theater, any kind of theater with a point of view. And today, still today, my favorite theater is theater with a point of view. It doesn't even have to be my point of view, just some point of view.
Yes.
Just theater with a purpose that somebody had an idea and a really strong opinion really excites me. So we wrote Kathy and Mo, and, since then we've been doing it on and off for 25 years, and you're right, I've never done stand-up. I don't like people smoking and drinking while I'm talking ever, so I don't do that. But I've done a lot of political theater, a lot. I wrote a piece for Standing on Ceremony, which is the gay marriage plays, and was a part of a lot of, 5 Minutes with the President and The Choices We Made book and things like that. But other than acting, I'm a mom and I'm a keynote speaker. I go around the country and I get to talk about things that I believe in.
But the concept of doing so with, I keep thinking profound, with deep wit, is so, has such an impact, better than political rhetoric, better than, banging the tambourine. If you can you can make people laugh.
People, I guess a glass of water goes down easier if there's a little bit of sugar or lemon in it. We always believe in. The thing about what Mo and I do is that we kind of love our characters, even if they're people we never ever want to meet as long as we live.
We love them.
People that we are so afraid of. We try not to make fun of people because
that's the
like
difference.
I said earlier, I respect an opinion, and it doesn't have to be mine. I just love an opinion. So when we wrote the characters that you are referring to in the Kathy and Mo show, even the ones that are sort of assholes are people that we dissected and tried to understand. And then it's not just, preaching to the converted or,
right.
shooting an easy target. Like anybody can sort of make fun of conservative Republicans or whatever, which is funny too, but I think I'm more interested in sort of starting a conversation about why they have that point of view, why we have ours. And so I think that's why, I love the word that you use, profound. I'm literally going to make stationery that says, Robin Morgan says I'm profound. But I think the profound you're talking about is that there's a respect. Like we respect all the characters that we do that discuss all kinds of issues, ones that we're behind and ones that we're not.
Yes, that's a major difference, and it goes deeper and wider than that because the respect leads to insight, right. And so you come away. You love these characters even if you don't necessarily want to be them or like them, and then exactly. we the audience love them. I did
one character with this guy in a bar, and he's a barfly, and he keeps proposing to the same alcoholic woman next to him night after night, and he's married. And people say like, you do him so good. Do you how is he a relative? Do you know him? And I say, honestly, he's the person I'm most afraid of in the world. He's the person that I've never met and I never want to meet. And for some reason, it was cathartic to just literally jump into his skin. So, I think showing both points of view from, we definitely have a serious feminist point of view, but if, the characters are other people that aren't us, it's somehow a little bit deeper and more interesting.
Well, it's not mean-spirited. There's a compassion there that's what made Shakespeare and George Eliot was to see into even the villainous heart and find recognition,
right?
In the humanity.
I have to say, Lily Tomlin. Obviously, Lily and Jane were huge. Libel could sue us inspirations.
Lily,
from the form of her doing characters to her exploring characters that aren't anything like her. Lily and Gloria, have been huge inspirations to everything that I've ever done.
Lily Tomlin and Jane Wagner are geniuses in their own right, and it's a very special, remarkable team of people. But but also there is a difference. You made these voices your own. It never occurred to me. We all influence each other, and
right.
As artists and as feminists, but it never occurred to me that you were imitative. There's a unique you and a unique Mo and a unique comedy there that is, that the Greeks used to do tragedy an evening of theater in ancient Greece was tragedy, and then they would wind up with comedy because comedy was considered the most profound. Sorry to use the word again, but there it is. And it wasn't that they were sending people away happy; it was that they were sending people away with perspective.
Right, exactly. Yeah, with perspective. What feminist female comics do you love right now?
Well, I wanted to ask you that because I don't want to be a fuddy-duddy and only love the ones of my generation. You're younger than me, but of that I came to in during this feminist contemporary wave. I think Sarah Jones does amazing work, and again, that's through characters. Nobody is rushing to the front of my brain right now at the moment. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I really have, I've loved the work that Anna Devere Smith has done with character work.
That's true.
I think Sandra Bernhard is very brave. I respect her courage so much. The thing that I think I learned from, too, was that in my generation and my mom's generation, the comedians that we had were Phyllis Diller, Joan Rivers, Toady Fields, and all really smart, funny women. But their time, where they were in the business, they were only allowed to do one kind of funny, and that was making fun of themselves.
I was just going to say.
They got to be famous and funny and known and paid if they talked about how fat or ugly or undesirable they were. And I know they didn't feel that way about themselves, but that's what they got good feedback from. That's what they said, more. The more Joan Rivers talked about how much plastic surgery she had or how fat her thighs were, or the same thing with Toady Fields, and Phyllis Diller, who was a freaking genius, talked about how ugly she was, or her husband. But I know that there was deeper material that wasn't really, they didn't get a big opportunity. They weren't really supported to do. And that's what I learned from. I learned to respect the part of them that wasn't really encouraged, which was the real funny and the real smart. It was just that the Times said, you can't be funny and a woman unless you make fun of yourself.
Well, that's a leap forward then in itself, to have left that behind, largely, I suppose. It's one reason I think I can't watch roasts. There are those, periodic, and they seem to me an exercise in sadism. I don't find them funny, and I think, what is wrong with me? People find them funny, and but deliberate harm of somebody or viciousness does not strike me as entertaining.
Yeah, that's easy, by the way. You know what I mean? Like a 7th grader can make a joke making fun of how stupid or ugly or fat or dumb or girl, someone is. So I always find that really easy and don't really respect that so much. But, and then we have, women stand-ups and comedians who are very layered, who, do a little bit of that, but are, again, we'll use the word profoundly funny, like my friend Chelsea Handler is so funny, you know what I mean? And, I know sometimes there's a sort of a sarcastic thing, but if you go deeper and watch her stand-up, she really has a huge vision and is inherently just authentically funny. She's very, very funny. And I guess everybody has different tastes, but I'm kind of with you. I get my feelings hurt really easy for other people. I don't like to watch roasts. I don't like to watch anybody making fun of anybody, even if it's an easy target celebrity. I just think you're smarter than that. You're funny. That's not funny.
That's right. It doesn't have to be that way. We're going to take a break for a minute, and then we'll come back with the one and only Kathy Najimy. This is Women's Media Center Live, the talk show with a brain, and I'm Robin Morgan. We'll be back in just a minute with the highly talented and highly principled Kathy Najimy.
When you have a drug or alcohol problem, your whole world stops making sense. You can get help for yourself or a loved one and make sense of life again.
Good morning.
For information, treatment referral, and most importantly, help, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.
And once again, we're back. We're having fun talking with the inimitable Kathy Najimy about comedy, feminism, women, and all good things. Why, or is this the nose on my face answer, like, duh, patriarchy, why can't otherwise, at least to me, and apparently to lots of other people, really funny men in contexts like Jon Stewart at The Daily Show and Saturday Night Live, they still, after all these years, they don't get it. They don't get women. The Daily Show has women writers, and they don't seem to get women.
Yeah. I mean, there are gems within each of those, like I find, Molly Shannon and Kristen Wiig and Maya, God, I'm such a huge fan of her, and her last name escapes me. But that they're all so talented, and it feels like, the obvious answer is you get on the Ferris wheel of the boys' club, and once you're on the boys' club, you're on the boys' club, and you do the best you can. And I think both of those shows, although with great intentions and some really great talent, especially writers, and I'm a huge fan of Jon Stewart, I think there's a certain amount of sort of industry standard, and it's a room full of writers that think something is funny, and you kind of have to jump on board and change from within.
They've done better with men of color, but still lagging behind with women. And you're absolutely right. It's a change from within problem. It's a consciousness problem.
Yeah, and it's just a reflection of what's going on in the rest of the world. Who's surprised that major TV shows are filled still with a lot of misogyny and boys? It's still the world. We've made great strides. Like you and I were at the Women's Media Center Awards, a couple weeks ago, and you leave there and you feel like you're in a cocoon of sanity when you're in these things. The night before that, I was at the Glamour Magazine Woman of the Year Awards, and you're with thousands of people who are like-minded and care about the world and women and girls and celebrate and are funny. That's another thing that makes me laugh so hard, is that people think feminists aren't funny. When Mo and I were first doing our show on Off-Broadway, we wanted to put feminist play, feminist comedy on the poster. And some very smart women said, no, you'll turn people away. Feminist and funny is an oxymoron. And, and I said, are you kidding me? The women I grew up with, the mothers of the women's movement and the women who nurtured me and who I spent time with, picketing and changing things and writing plays with and skits with, are hilarious, starting with Gloria Steinem, going all the way down. I don't know where that came from. And I said, if you don't put feminist and funny on something that's feminist and funny, how will that ever change? So we forced them to put feminist on everything, and people came. Everybody came. It sold out, and nobody got a rash.
Listen,
it was like they laughed their asses off.
Whenever anybody,
it's just so funny to me that people think if you have a point of view or are sane, And so being at those two events in a row, you really feel like you're in a different universe where everyone's funny and great and smart and makes sense, and it's clear what we have to do for just the basic equality. Then literally you walk out onto the street and think,
oops.
Wait a minute.
Whenever anybody says to me, well, feminists have no sense of humor, which they say less often these days, I always reply, listen, if we had no sense of humor, we would have slit our wrists over the nearest basin, Roman style, back in 1968. And shot you. Back in 68. I have never laughed so hard or so long or so often as I have in the women's movement.
Me too.
There is
women are hilarious, and smart women are hilarious, and I don't know where that came from. I really do, and I'm sure it came from some Rush Limbaugh's great-grandson.
And it probably came from some woman, complaining, or a critical mass of women complaining about whatever dumb secretary jokes or dumb farm girl jokes and saying, Herman, that's not funny.
Right.
At which point, there's nothing wrong with the joke. There must be something wrong with the woman,
Right, yeah. The same thing with me. I get offended really easily, and yet I'm funny, and I've made a living, and am living in a big house made from funny. So it's like, but I don't want to hear a sexist joke or a gay joke. I don't want to hear it. It's too easy.
Yes.
There's too much other real funny.
Kathy, do you see this, any trends? Do you see this changing? Are there more pipelines for younger female comedians or comics? Are there plays that are written by women that will take this on? What do you see happening in the field?
I mean, I'm not an expert, but what I glean, I think from the internet, from blogging, people are given such a vast voice. Bloggers, they don't need for NBC to hire them or to be on a show and to do lines that other people write. I feel like, women's voices are now being heard a lot through Facebook and blogging and things like that. I also feel like there is a third wave, and it's very exciting. My daughter is 15. She's in 2 feminist theater groups. She's in something called Arts Effect, which is run by these 2 great young feminist women. She supports this play called Facebook Me, which talks about the real impact of Facebook on teen girls. There's Project Girl that does a whole play about sex trafficking in America. There's Eve Ensler's I Am an Emotional Creature. So, do I have hope? Absolutely. I mean, I absolutely see it all before me that they're even kind of braver and bolder and better dressed than we are. They are making they're making their voices heard.
What is her name? We'll watch out for her, your daughter.
My daughter's name is Kathy Najimy Finnerty, and she actually is a songwriter and does. She's doing her first nightclub act in New York soon, and she certainly has been influenced by the work you've done and Gloria and all the
a little bit by her mother. I would imagine.
Well, I mean, you hope so, but there's a lot of really great influences in her life as a musician. Fiona Apple and Liz Phair, Alanis Morissette. So she's that kind of singer that sings about real things, and I'm trying not to be too outwardly exciting because then it'll end. But I'm really proud of her. I'm proud of who she is as a person. It's cool watching her and her friends sort of make a new world for themselves. Not to say that approval of boys, body image, eating disorders, self-doubt are all a big, huge helping of teen years still.
Yeah, sure. That'll take a longer time. Yeah.
But we had that too.
Yeah.
We do. We fought through our self-doubt.
Yeah. Listen, take a minute, because we've only got a little bit of time left, but take a minute and tell people how they can find you and get you to come and speak to them and lecture and what you're doing these days.
Well, that sounds exciting. I am repped by the American Program Bureau as a keynote speaker, and it's one of my favorite things I do. I feel most in my skin when I'm mothering and keynote speaking. When you're just up there and go, oh, this is what I was supposed to do.
I've heard you do it,
I really
and
love it.
wonderful.
I write my own speeches. I speak to choice, women and girls self-esteem, gay and lesbian rights, AIDS, animal rights, things that we all sort of care about, the umbrella of feminism. I do TV shows to make a living. I'm on the Big C on Showtime with Laura Linney for the last whole season. There's a pilot with ABC I did called So-Show. Oh, and I did a movie with Barbara Streisand, another woman who really, really influenced me by seeing Funny Girl 437 times. I play her best friend in a movie coming out at the holidays called The Guilt Trip. And
sounds busy.
I go to lunch with Robin Morgan, hopefully.
Well, I should certainly hope so. And now it's time for Fighting Words. I'm beginning to think John McCain should be put somewhere safe, for the good of the Republic. His so-called maverick days are long gone. His last gasp of decency was spent in the 2008 campaign, when even he couldn't stomach a supporter of his calling Obama a Muslim terrorist, so he momentarily took issue with the very racism that was being stoked by his own campaign. Those were the good old days. Pundits miss the point when they term McCain bitter, or when they blame his age. Being old doesn't qualify one to exude nastiness. See, for example, Beatrix Potter. And frankly, he's gotten an awful lot of mileage from having been tortured when a prisoner of war in Vietnam. I'm sorry, but you don't see your average tortured, battered woman, jaw permanently dislocated, arm broken, burn scars livid lifelong, running for president and then retreating to sneer at everyone from a lofty Senate seat. McCain's latest, of course, is his 2-week-long attack on U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Susan Rice. Her sin? Using the intentionally not to be the whole truth, for security reasons, classified, talking points that had been given to her about the Benghazi, Libya assault, after those notes had been signed off on by the CIA, NSA, State Department, and entire national security team, including, former General Petraeus, he of the no-matter-what unbesmirched reputation. McCain has accused the administration of editing the talking points for pre-election political gain. That fizzled when Senator Dianne Feinstein, who chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, on which, by the way, McCain does not even sit, proved that the sole editing done was to correct the besieged building's description from consulate to mission. So McCain returned to demonizing Susan Rice. She's conniving or incompetent, Obama's willing tool or an idiot, or a brilliant schemer herself. He can't make up his mind what to do with someone who is, in the words of Lorraine Hansberry's great play, young, gifted, and black. Not to mention female. McCain has always had a problem with women, as his wife rather startlingly implied in an interview during his presidential run. He was involved in the tailhook scandal, that run-the-gauntlet assault on military women. Then he scuttled back to D.C., washed his hands, and reemerged to investigate it. Actually, come to think of it, McCain and women can be summed up in 2 words: Sarah Palin. 1 or 2 progressive commentators, but no reporters, have noted that when Condoleezza Rice, also, in fairness, female, black, gifted, and, at the time, young, swore by intelligence reports that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, and even the atomic bomb, and was, oops, wrong, by then we'd invaded Iraq. Still, nobody slung personal insults at her, despite considerable proof that conflicting intelligence data had been deliberately hidden in the bushes. Maybe the neocon hawks just assume everyone does as they do, deliberately falsifies evidence and then lies about it. I met Susan Rice some years ago in the late 1990s, when, at the recommendation of her mentor, Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, Rice had been appointed one of the youngest Assistant Secretaries of State ever for African Affairs. She was unpretentious, whip-smart, confident, relaxed, and funny, joking that some of the older white gentlemen at the State Department didn't know which aspect of her, youth, gender, race, or stellar job qualifications, gave them the greatest indigestion. I remember recommending that she carry antacids with her at all times, and we laughed rather wickedly. I'm glad the president is defending her, as he should, but for John McCain more drastic measures are needed, like Pepto-Bismol, by the gallon. And that's it for this week. You've been listening to us on CBS station 1580 gov.biz AM radio in Washington, D.C., and on the web at WMClive.com, which also has podcasts of previous shows. Remember to email us at womensmediacenterlive@gmail.com. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President, and for this program Executive Director, Julie Burton. Senior Producer, Crystal Williams Chancellor. Technical Director, Michelle Kinsey Bruns. Production Assistant, Nora Eakin. Board Operator, James Brown. And our founding sponsor, Regina Kulik Scully. I'm Robin Morgan. Thanks for being with us. Join us next Saturday at 11 a.m. for an in-depth conversation with the great Ursula K. Le Guin, here at the Talk Show with a Brain, Women's Media Center, live.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.